The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Silver Heights Mall as Natalie Brooks walked through the gleaming corridors with her best friend Grace Martinez by her side. Natalie clutched her small, worn purse tightly, knowing exactly what was inside. 5 single-dollar bills. It was all she had left after sending most of her paycheck home to San Diego, where her younger brother Tommy was preparing for his high school graduation. Today was special because tomorrow was Tommy's 18th birthday, and Natalie desperately wanted to send him something meaningful. Grace had tried to lend her money, but Natalie refused. She had her pride, even if she had little else. For the past 3 years, Natalie had worked as a housekeeper at the Harrington estate, one of the most magnificent properties in Los Angeles. The pay was decent, but supporting her sick mother and putting Tommy through school left her with almost nothing for herself. Still, she never complained. Family meant everything to her, and their happiness was worth every sacrifice. The perfect gift as they passed store after store filled with expensive items. Natalie felt her hope dwindling. Everything seemed so far beyond her reach. Then Grace spotted it. A small boutique called Fashion Corner was having a clearance sale. In the window display, a simple navy blue shirt with white trim caught Natalie's eye. It was exactly Tommy's style, clean and classic. The sign above it read, "Clearance items starting at $5. Her heart lifted with hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could afford this one thing for her brother. They entered the store, and Natalie approached the display with nervous excitement. She carefully took the shirt from the mannequin, checking the price tag. Her hands trembled as she read it. $5 exactly. It felt like a small miracle. She hugged the shirt to her chest, imagining Tommy's smile when he opened the package. The storm begins. Natalie walked to the counter, where a young cashier with a name tag. Reading, Jennifer stood scrolling through her phone. Behind her, a middle-aged man in an expensive suit watched the security monitors. This was Mr. Douglas Penn, the store manager. Known throughout the mall for his harsh treatment of customers, he deemed unworthy of his establishment. Jennifer looked up as Natalie placed the shirt on the counter. She smiled politely and began scanning the item. But before she could complete the transaction, Mr. Penn's sharp voice cut through the air. "Wait, stop right there." He strode over, his eyes scanning Natalie from head to toe, taking in her simple jeans, her faded jacket, and her scuffed shoes. His lip curled with obvious distaste. "Is there a problem?" Natalie asked softly, feeling the familiar sting of judgment she had experienced too many times in her life. "Public shame, mister." Penn reached over and snatched the shirt from the counter. "This item is not actually $5. There was a pricing error. The real price is $50. His voice was loud enough to attract the attention of other shoppers nearby. Natalie felt her face grow hot. "But the sign says $5. I saw it clearly in the window." She pointed toward the display where the clearance sign still stood. Mr. Penn laughed, a cruel sound that made Natalie's stomach turn. "That sign is old. We have not updated it yet. If you cannot afford proper clothing from this store, perhaps you should shop somewhere more suitable for people of your economic level." His words were designed to wound, and they hit their mark perfectly. Grace stepped forward, her voice shaking with anger. "You cannot treat people this way. The sign clearly states $5. You have to honor that price." The crowd gathers by now. A small crowd had gathered. Some people looked sympathetic, but others wore expressions of amusement or superiority. One well-dressed woman whispered to her companion, "Can you imagine trying to shop here with only $5? How embarrassing." Natalie felt tears prick her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She had faced hardship before. Public humiliation cut deeper than poverty ever could. Mr. Penn crossed his arms, clearly enjoying his position of power. "Security will escort you out if you continue to make a scene. We do not tolerate disruptions in our establishment." He gestured toward a security guard who began walking in their direction. Natalie opened her purse with shaking hands and carefully pulled out her $5. She placed the bills on the counter with as much dignity as she could muster. "I have exactly what your sign promised. I work hard for every dollar I earn." This money is for my brother's birthday gift. Please, just let me buy this one shirt." An unexpected witness. What Natalie did not know was that standing near the back of the crowd, partially hidden behind a display of watches, was Vincent Harrington. He had stopped at the mall to pick up a gift for a business associate and had been browsing nearby when he heard the commotion. At first, he had not paid much attention. Then he heard a voice he recognized. A voice he heard every morning when she arrived at his home. Though he had never really listened to it before, Vincent moved closer, and his heart sank as he saw Natalie standing at that counter. Her shoulders squared with false bravery while that pompous manager humiliated her. Vincent knew Natalie worked for him, of course. She cleaned his 14-bedroom mansion, maintained his gardens, and kept his life running smoothly. But like so many employers, he had never really seen her as a complete person with her own struggles and dreams. Now, watching her count out those $5 precious while fighting back tears, something inside Vincent cracked open. This was a woman who had worked in his home for 3 years. She had always been punctual, thorough, and kind. She had nursed his dog back to health when it got sick. She had saved his favorite books from water damage when a pipe burst. She had been nothing but loyal and hardworking. The moment everything changed, Vincent watched as Mr. Penn picked up the $5 and actually laughed. "This is not even enough for the tax on this shirt. Now leave before I have you arrested for trespassing." He threw the money back at Natalie, and the bills scattered across the floor. Several people in the crowd gasped, but no one moved to help. Natalie bent down to pick up her money, her face burning with shame. Grace knelt beside her, whispering words of comfort. That was when Vincent Harrington made a decision that would change both their lives forever. He strode through the crowd with the confidence of a man who owned half the city. His presence was commanding, and people instinctively stepped aside. "Stop," Vincent said, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. Every eye turned toward him. Mr. Penn looked up, and his face went pale as he recognized one of the wealthiest men in Los Angeles standing in his store. Vincent walked straight to Natalie and helped her to her feet with gentle hands. Then he turned to face Mr. Penn, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Vincent Harrington stood between Natalie and the store manager, his presence commanding absolute attention. Mr. Penn's confident smirk had vanished, replaced by visible nervousness. Everyone in the crowd recognized Vincent. His face appeared regularly in business magazines and news programs. He was not just wealthy. He was powerful, and crossing him could destroy careers. "Mr. Harrington," Mr. Penn stammered, attempting to regain his composure. "What an unexpected pleasure to see you in our humble store. I was just handling a minor situation with this woman who was trying to take advantage of a pricing error." His voice carried false brightness, but his eyes darted nervously. Vincent's expression remained cold as ice. "This woman has a name. Her name is Natalie Brooks, and she works for me. She is one of the most honest, hardworking people I have ever known. Now, I want you to explain to me exactly what pricing error you are referring to." His voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of authority that made Mr. Penn visibly sweat. "Exposing the lies, Mr." Penn tried to maintain his story, pointing toward the display window. "The sign is outdated, Mr. Harrington. The actual price of that shirt is $50, not $5. It was a simple mistake that we have not corrected yet." Vincent walked to the window display and examined the clearance sign. It was professionally printed, not old or faded. He pulled out his phone and took several photographs. Then he returned to the counter. "This sign looks quite new to me. It has today's date printed at the bottom. Would you like to revise your statement, Mr. Penn?" Vincent's words were measured, each one landing like a hammer blow. The manager's face turned red, then white. He had been caught in an obvious lie in front of dozens of witnesses. Grace, still standing beside Natalie, could not contain herself. "He has been treating customers this way for months. He decides who is worthy of shopping here based on how they look. My cousin works at the coffee shop next door, and she told me he does this constantly to people he thinks are poor." Her voice rang out clearly, and several people in the crowd nodded in agreement. Justice served. Vincent turned to address the crowd, his voice carrying to every corner of the store. "I want everyone here to witness this moment. This manager has deliberately humiliated a customer who was trying to make an honest purchase. He mocked her financial situation, threw her money on the floor, and threatened her with arrest for simply trying to buy a gift for her brother. He paused, letting his words sink in. This kind of cruelty has no place in any business, let alone one in this city. He pulled out his wallet and removed a business card, handing it to Jennifer, the young cashier who had tried to help Natalie. I want you to document everything that happened here today. Write down every detail. Then I want you to contact my office. I am buying this store, effective immediately. Mr. Penn, you are fired. Security, please escort him from the premises. The crowd erupted in whispers and gasps. Mr. Penn's face transformed from red to purple with rage and humiliation. You cannot do this. I have worked here for 15 years. This store has an owner. Vincent smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The owner is my college roommate, Harold Chen. I will call him right now. And I guarantee he will be happy to sell once he learns how you have been treating customers and damaging his reputation. A simple gesture, true to his word. Vincent made a call that lasted less than 3 minutes. When he hung up, he nodded to the security guard, who reluctantly began escorting the protesting Mr. Penn toward the exit. Vincent then picked up the navy blue shirt from the counter and handed it to Natalie along with her $5. Please keep your money. This shirt is a gift from me to your brother. I hope he has a wonderful birthday. Natalie stood frozen, unable to process what had just happened. Tears she had been holding back finally spilled down her cheeks, but these were different tears. Not tears of shame, but of overwhelming gratitude and disbelief. Mr. Harrington, I do not know what to say. Thank you does not seem like enough. Her voice broke with emotion. Vincent's stern expression softened as he looked at her. For the first time in 3 years, he truly saw Natalie Brooks. Not as his housekeeper, not as part of the furniture in his mansion, but as a real person with feelings, struggles, and dignity. You do not need to thank me. What happened here was wrong, and I simply made it right. Now, please take the shirt for Tommy. Tell him happy birthday from me. An unexpected conversation, the crowd slowly dispersed, many people looking ashamed that they had stood by without helping. Grace hugged Natalie tightly, whispering how proud she was of her friend's courage. Vincent prepared to leave, but something made him pause. Natalie, would you and your friend join me for coffee? I think we should talk. They walked to a quiet cafe 3 stores down from Fashion Corner. Vincent ordered 3 coffees and an assortment of pastries, insisting that Natalie and Grace choose whatever they wanted. As they sat at a corner table away from curious eyes, an unusual silence hung between them. The normal boundaries of employer and employee had been shattered, and none of them quite knew how to proceed. I need to apologize to you, Vincent said finally, his voice serious. Natalie looked up in surprise. Apologize? For what? You've just saved me from the most humiliating moment of my life. Vincent shook his head. That is exactly why I need to apologize. For 3 years you have worked in my home. You have taken care of everything I own with dedication and care. Yet I have never once asked you about your life, your family, or your dreams. I treated you like you were invisible. Learning her story, Grace excused herself to make a phone call, giving them privacy. Natalie stirred her coffee, unsure how to respond to such unexpected honesty from her employer. You have always been kind to me, Mr. Harrington. You pay me fairly and treat me with respect. That is more than many people in your position do. Vincent leaned forward, genuine interest in his eyes. Tell me about Tommy. Tell me about your family. I want to know. So Natalie began to talk. She told him about her father who had died when she was 16, leaving her mother devastated and financially struggling. She described how she had given up her own college dreams to work full-time and support her family. She spoke about Tommy, brilliant and kind, who was graduating high school with honors despite all the hardships they had faced. She explained how her mother had diabetes and needed expensive medication that insurance barely covered. Vincent listened to every word, and with each sentence, he felt something shift inside him. Here was a woman half his age who had faced more challenges than he could imagine. She maintained her dignity, her kindness, and her hope. She worked long hours cleaning his mansion, then went home to her tiny apartment and baked cookies for neighborhood children. She sent most of her money to San Diego, but but still found ways to volunteer at a local shelter on weekends. A new understanding. Why did you never tell me any of this? Vincent asked gently. Natalie smiled sadly. You never asked? And besides, everyone has struggles. Mine are not special. I am grateful to have a job and a chance to help my family. That is enough for me. But Vincent knew it was not enough. Or rather, it should not have to be enough. Someone with Natalie's work ethic, intelligence, and heart deserved opportunities, not just survival. What would you do if money were not an issue? He asked. What dreams did you give up? Natalie's eyes grew distant, seeing possibilities she had long ago buried. I wanted to study business management. I had ideas about opening a community center that offered job training and childcare for single parents. I saw how hard it was for my mother to work while caring for us alone. I thought maybe I could help other families avoid some of that struggle. Vincent felt something he had not experienced in years. Inspiration. Here was a purpose beyond profit, margins and quarterly reports. What if I told you that dream does not have to stay buried? Natalie looked at him with confusion and hope warring in her expression. What do you mean? Planting seeds of change? I mean that I want to help you achieve that dream. Not as charity, but as an investment in someone I should have valued long ago. I will pay for your education. You can adjust your work schedule to attend classes. And when you are ready, I will help you launch that community center. Vincent spoke with conviction, but Natalie's face filled with doubt. Mr. Harrington, that is incredibly generous, but I cannot accept such a huge gift. What would people think? What would you expect in return? Her voice carried the caution of someone who had learned that nothing in life came free. Vincent understood her hesitation. I expect nothing except that you continue being exactly who you are. And what people think does not matter. What matters is doing something good with the resources I have been blessed with. Grace returned to the table, sensing that something significant had transpired. Natalie sat staring at her coffee, her mind racing with possibilities and fears. Could this really be happening? Could her life actually change so dramatically? Vincent gave her his private number and told her to think about his offer. Take all the time you need. But Natalie, please know this. Today showed me how blind I have been. Not just to you, but to so many things that truly matter. You reminded me what courage and dignity look like. That is worth more than any business deal I have ever made. The beginning of transformation as they parted ways. Natalie clutched the shirt for Tommy and the business card from Vincent Harrington. Her life had shifted on its axis in the space of a few hours. She had entered that mall expecting nothing but a small gift for her brother. She was leaving with that gift and the possibility of a completely different future. Grace linked her arm through Natalie's as they walked to the parking lot. Girl, do you realize what just happened? Vincent Harrington is not just offering you money. He is offering you respect, opportunity, and recognition. That man looked at you like you hung the moon. Natalie blushed. He was just being kind after that horrible scene. He felt sorry for me. But Grace shook her head firmly. I saw his face. That was not pity. That was something else entirely. Something deeper. Mark my words, Natalie Brooks. Your life is about to change in ways you cannot even imagine. Neither of them could have known just how right Grace was. Vincent drove back to his mansion that evening, but his thoughts remained fixed on Natalie. For the first time in years, he felt truly awake. The woman who had quietly moved through his home for 3 years had suddenly become the most interesting person in his world. And as he pulled into his long driveway, Vincent Harrington made a decision. He was going to get to know Natalie Brooks. Really know her? Not as his employee, but as the remarkable person she had revealed herself to be. 3 months had passed since that fateful day at Silver Heights Mall. Natalie had accepted Vincent's offer and enrolled in evening business management courses at the community college. She still worked at the Harrington estate, but their relationship had evolved into something neither of them had anticipated. They began having dinner together after her work hours, talking for hours about everything from philosophy to favorite childhood memories. Vincent discovered that Natalie had a sharp mind for business, strategy, and a natural talent for understanding people. She helped him see his companies from a different perspective. pointing out how small policy changes could dramatically improve employee morale. He, in turn, introduced her to concepts and connections that would help her future community center succeed. But somewhere between the business discussions and shared laughter, friendship had deepened into something far more profound. The first public appearance, the transformation, became public knowledge when Vincent invited Natalie to accompany him to the annual charity gala, one of the most prestigious social events in Los Angeles. His assistant, Richard Mills, had tried to warn him about the potential backlash, but Vincent was determined. He wanted the world to see Natalie the way he saw her: brilliant, kind, deserving of respect. When Natalie descended the stairs of the mansion in an elegant emerald green gown that Vincent had insisted on buying, he felt his breath catch. She looked absolutely stunning, but more than that, she carried herself with a quiet confidence that came from knowing her own worth. "You look beautiful," he said softly, offering his arm. Natalie smiled, though her hands trembled slightly. "I am terrified. Your world is so different from mine." Vincent covered her hand with his. "My world needs someone like you to remind it what truly matters. Just be yourself. That is more than enough." They arrived at the Beverly Hills Grand Hotel, where camera flashes erupted like lightning. Reporters shouted questions, and society matrons whispered behind jeweled hands. Vincent felt Natalie's grip tighten on his arm, but she kept her head high. Facing the wolves inside the ballroom, the reaction was immediate and harsh. Vincent's Aunt Charlotte, a formidable woman who had ruled Los Angeles society for 40 years, approached them with ice in her eyes. "Vincent, darling, who is your companion this evening?" Her tone made it clear she already knew exactly who Natalie was and did not approve. "Aunt Charlotte, this is Natalie Brooks." "Natalie, my Aunt Charlotte Webb." Vincent's voice carried a warning, but his aunt ignored it. Charlotte looked Natalie up and down with obvious disdain. "Oh yes, the housekeeper. How charming that you have decided to play dress-up with the help, Vincent. I suppose next you will be bringing the gardener to the country club." Natalie felt the familiar sting of humiliation, but before she could respond, Vincent stepped forward. His voice was cold and clear enough for nearby guests to hear. "Natalie's not playing anything. She is a brilliant, hardworking woman who is currently studying business management while supporting her entire family. She has more integrity in her little finger than most people in this room have in their entire bodies. And she is here as my guest because I value her company more than anyone else's." Standing together, the ballroom fell silent. No one had ever heard Vincent Harrington speak so passionately or publicly defend anyone. Charlotte's face turned scarlet with rage and embarrassment. "You are making a fool of yourself over someone completely unsuitable. Your parents would be appalled." Vincent's jaw tightened. "My parents spent their entire marriage being miserable in their suitable match. I watched them destroy each other slowly over 30 years. I will not follow that path." He turned to Natalie, whose eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Would you like to leave? We do not have to stay here." But Natalie surprised everyone, including herself. She straightened her shoulders and looked directly at Charlotte Webb. "Mrs. Webb, I understand that my background makes you uncomfortable. I clean houses for a living. I come from a working-class family. I do not have your education or your connections. But I have never pretended to be something I am not. I treat people with respect regardless of their bank account. And I care deeply for your nephew because of who he is as a person, not what he owns." Her voice remained steady and dignified throughout. Several people in the crowd looked ashamed, while others nodded with approval. Charlotte opened her mouth to respond, but Vincent cut her off. "This conversation is over. Natalie and I are going to enjoy our evening. Anyone who has a problem with that knows where the exit is." Business rivals plot as the night progressed. Another threat emerged. Derek Stone, Vincent's longtime business rival, had been watching the drama unfold with calculating interest. He saw an opportunity to damage Vincent's reputation and weaken his position in an upcoming merger negotiation. Derek approached several reporters at the event, suggesting scandalous angles for their stories. Billionaire's secret romance with his maid, from cleaning his floors to sharing his bed, Harrington's midlife crisis. By the next morning, the story had exploded across social media and news outlets. Photographers camped outside Natalie's apartment building, and the Harrington estate. Her college professors were contacted for comments. Even Tommy in San Diego found reporters at his school. The pressure was immense and unrelenting. Natalie's phone rang constantly with calls from tabloid journalists, offering money for exclusive interviews. Grace stayed with Natalie through the worst of it, fielding calls and blocking intrusive photographers. "You need to talk to Vincent," she urged. "This is destroying both of you." But Natalie hesitated. She saw the damage the scandal was causing to Vincent's business relationships. Several conservative board members had called emergency meetings. Stock prices had dipped slightly, all because of her. The breaking point: 1 week after the gala, Natalie made a painful decision. She went to Vincent's office at the mansion, where he was reviewing contracts and damage control strategies with Richard. When she entered, Vincent immediately stood, relief flooding his face. "Natalie, thank God I have been trying to reach you. We need to present a united front. Richard has a plan to manage the media narrative." But Natalie shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "Vincent, I cannot do this anymore. I am destroying everything you have built. Your aunt was right. I do not belong in your world. We should end this before more damage is done." Her voice broke on the last words, and Vincent felt his heart shatter. He crossed the room in 3 strides and took her hands in his. "Listen to me carefully. You are not destroying anything. Small-minded people with shallow values are showing their true colors. That has nothing to do with you. And as for my world, I am beginning to think I need to build a new one, a better one. With you." Natalie sobbed openly now. "You do not understand. They are attacking Tommy. Reporters are harassing my mother. Your company's stock is falling. I cannot be the reason you lose everything." The grand gesture Vincent gently wiped the tears from her cheeks. "You are not the reason I would lose everything. You are the reason I found everything that truly matters. For 45 years, I have been sleepwalking through life, checking boxes, building wealth, and feeling empty. Then you came along and woke me up. You showed me what courage looks like, what genuine kindness means, what love feels like." He got down on one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Natalie gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "Natalie Brooks, I know this is fast. I know the world thinks we are crazy, but I have never been more certain of anything in my life. You are my best friend, my inspiration, and the love I never knew I was searching for. Will you marry me?" Richard quietly left the room, a smile on his usually serious face. Natalie stared at Vincent through her tears, seeing the absolute sincerity in his eyes. "Vincent, are you sure? Really sure? Because once we do this, there is no going back. The criticism will get worse before it gets better." Vincent stood, still holding the ring. "I have spent my entire life doing what was expected, following rules that other people made. For once I want to follow my heart, and my heart belongs to you. Love conquers all." Natalie threw her arms around him, laughing and crying simultaneously. Yes, I will marry you." Vincent slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her with all the passion he had been holding back for months. When they finally pulled apart, both were grinning like teenagers. The announcement of their engagement sent shockwaves through Los Angeles society. But Vincent and Natalie faced it together. They held a press conference where Vincent made a passionate speech about love transcending social boundaries. Natalie spoke eloquently about her dreams for the community center and how Vincent was helping her achieve them, not through dependence, but through partnership. A new beginning. 6 months later, they married in a small, intimate ceremony at the community center Natalie had finally opened. Tommy walked his sister down the aisle, while their mother cried happy tears. Grace was the maid of honor. Richard served as best man. Charlotte Webb did not attend, but surprisingly, several of Vincent's business associates did. Won over by Natalie's intelligence and genuine warmth, Vincent stepped away from day-to-day operations of his company, appointing ethical leaders who shared his new vision for business that valued people over profits. He began teaching business ethics part-time at the community college where Natalie had studied. Together, they expanded the community center, offering job training, childcare, support services to struggling families throughout Los Angeles. The ripple effect, Natalie's Story inspired countless others. She became a sought-after speaker about overcoming adversity and breaking down class barriers. The Fashion Corner store, now owned by Vincent and managed by Jennifer, became known for its inclusive policies and fair treatment of all customers. Derek Stone's underhanded tactics were exposed, damaging his reputation while Vincent's grew stronger. Most importantly, Vincent and Natalie built a life filled with genuine love, shared purpose, and daily joy. They never forgot the lesson of that day at Silver Heights Mall, that true worth has nothing to do with money and everything to do with character, courage, and compassion. Every morning, Vincent still made coffee for both of them, and they would sit on the terrace watching the sunrise, talking about their dreams and plans. The mansion felt like a home now, filled with laughter, love, and the sound of Natalie singing while she worked on community center projects. The final truth to years after their wedding. Natalie graduated with honors from business school. Vincent sat in the audience, bursting with pride as she gave the commencement speech about second chances and believing in yourself. As they drove home that evening, Natalie rested her hand on her growing belly, carrying their first child. "Can you believe how much has changed?" she asked softly. Vincent brought her hand to his lips. "I can believe it. Because I learned that when you choose love over fear, when you value people over pretense, miracles happen." That night at the mansion, now decorated with family photos and children's drawings from the community center, Vincent and Natalie stood together looking out at the city lights. They had faced judgment, overcome obstacles, and proved that love could indeed conquer all. Not because it was easy, but because it was real. And in the end, that made all the difference.